Good afternoon. I'm J. Lenora Bressler, and welcome to the June 12th, 2022 edition of the Bible Delight in the Details. Today's message comes from Acts. It is the passage that deals with the first Christian martyr, Stephen, who was a deacon. It comes to us from Acts chapter 7, chapter 7, and I want to call attention to verses 59 and 60. When Stephen was being stoned to death, the Bible tells us that he looked up and he saw the Son of Man standing to the right side of the Father. Now, there's some very fascinating things about this that I think we should take note of. Stephen is being stoned in Jerusalem by many of the same people who had fought against Jesus himself. And you may remember when Jesus had his encounter, or I should say Paul had his encounter with Jesus on the road to Damascus. Jesus asked Paul, "Why do you persecute me?" Not why are you persecuting my people, but why are you persecuting me? Jesus takes the persecution of his people, of his saints, very seriously. In fact, he thinks of it as being an attack on his very person. Now, I bring this to your attention because it's interesting that the last thing that Jesus said publicly to those who were accusing him during those mockeries of a trial is he told them, "You will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of God." And now here is Stephen, who is saying to this same type of people that this has come true, that Jesus died and rose again and is now seated exactly where he had told them in his final words to them that what was going to happen. And now Stephen is testifying that that indeed has. But it's interesting because Jesus told those people that he would be seated at the right hand of the throne of God. But Stephen looked up and saw him standing. What is the significance to that? You have probably heard the saying, to stand trial. You have probably also heard the saying, do you stand by what you're saying? This has to do with the way trials were held all the way up to relatively recently in the last 150 years. Even during Revolutionary War times here in America, what I'm about to say was true. Throughout antiquity, when someone was in a court, the judge sat, the accused stood, hence why we say you stand trial, and the witnesses also stood. And this meant you stood at sometimes for many, many hours, maybe even days. But if you were a witness, and if you were yourself in the dock, as they say in England, meaning you were the accused, you stood. It was just, this is how it was done. Jesus was standing up. Why? What is the significance? Well, at that very moment, he was not about to unleash judgment against the people that were stoning Stephen. Oh, that would come later. But that was not what he was doing at that moment. So he was not sitting as a judge would sit. He was standing for two reasons, I think. Number one, he was identifying himself with Stephen. An attack on Stephen was an attack on him. And also, he was there testifying not only for Stephen and the rightness of his cause, but also that what Stephen was testifying to was accurate, that Jesus actually was there on the right hand of God in glory. It's a beautiful thing. Jesus rose to testify to himself, to his servant, and also, of course, he was standing as well, I think, so that he would be right there to welcome Stephen with open arms. Jesus stood as a witness to the first martyr. Now, we know martyr as meaning someone who dies for their faith, but it really means a witness. So the ultimate witness stood in honor of the very first of the human witnesses who would witness all the way unto death. I'm J. Lenora Bressler. May we all have the faith of Stephen to witness, even unto death, the truth that we know. Visit me on the next edition of the Bible, Delight in the Details. Have a great day.